Figuring out the 49ers wide receiver position will be the key to winning your Dynasty championships this year. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. You can also check me out over on the Locked On Cowboys podcast. And joining me today, as always, is Michael Fabiano. You can follow him on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. You can also check out all of his great work over on SI. And it's a Wednesday show, so of course, Matt Williamson is here. Follow him on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Check him out on a bunch of different Locked On podcasts. He does it all here for the Locked On Podcast Network. On today's show, we're going to be answering your mailbag questions, including who is the next breakout running back, some late round dart throws that we are making in our startup drafts. But Matt, I want to start with this. We've got some news about Brandon Aiyuk over the last couple of days that he actually had more damage done to his knee than what was initially reported. It sounds like he tore his MCL, ACL, and has a couple other things going on. It doesn't sound like he's going to be ready for training camp. He's not going to be ready for week one. What are you doing with this 49ers wide receiver room? Because they drafted Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel's gone, Jauan Jennings had a big middle portion of the year. Matt, at this time last year, I was just looking at the ADP. Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver 12 in Dynasty leagues. How are you handling this situation?
Well, real quick. So this came up on Peacock and Williamson yesterday, and Brian Peacock is the host of Locked On Niners, and he can be overly optimistic on Niner stuff, of course, but he thinks Aiyuk will probably miss the first month. Do we think that's about right?
Yeah, I think he's going to be on PUP, miss that first month, and hopefully he's back early October.
I wanted to all be operating on the same playing field with that. And that's what I thought during my rookie drafts as well. And it's funny this comes up because two of the veterans that I acquired more than anybody else in my 7 rookie drafts were Pearsall and Aiyuk. People are just kind of done with them. There's a vibe that the Niners offense ain't what it used to be. I don't see that at all. I still have extreme faith in the offense as a whole. McCaffrey coming back, Shanahan. I believe in Brock Purdy now. I think the O-line's good enough. So I still feel like there's buy low opportunities for Aiyuk and Pearsall to me, and I actively tried to get both.
Fabs.
I agree to a degree. Let's put it that way. There's risk, though, with all 3 49ers wide receivers at different levels. So you mentioned Aiyuk is coming off of a serious knee injury, multiple ligament tears, probably not going to be ready until potentially October. He's going to be under contract until 2029, although the Niners can opt out after 2027. There's also been reports and rumors that maybe there's going to be a trade at some point. How happy is he in San Francisco? So at 66.7, and that's what his ADP is right now, I think that might be a little bit too rich for my blood. Pearsall is the youngest and probably the most attractive from a dynasty perspective, but he also comes with some question marks. He is a guy who has had injury issues dating back to his time in college. He showed some flashes at the end of last season, but he was not participating in minicamp because, well, injuries. Got a hamstring. Should be good to go for training camp, but how many games do you get out of Pearsall? Jennings is probably the best fantasy bet for this upcoming season. But long-term, I don't know that I love him in Dynasty. I mean, he's going to be 28 years old in July. I believe he's in a contract year, which means he'll be motivated. He's coming off a year where he scored 14 points per game. So I think Jennings this season, if you're just looking at 2025, is probably the best Niners receiver from a fantasy perspective. But long-term, all 3 come with questions. I'd probably like to get Pearsall out of the 3 based on age and where I'm getting him based on the ADP. But I mean, this is not a Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens situation from way back when. All 3 of these guys have question marks.
Fab said that great. And one thing I wanted to mention was I'm really taking a bigger picture dynasty approach on Pearsall and Aiyuk, basing on talent. They're man coverage beaters. I'm always going to bet on man coverage beaters.
I just think for me, I'm struggling with Aiyuk because I really like the talent between Pearsall and Aiyuk. I just think Aiyuk is a much better player.
Mm-hmm.
But man, all the vibes coming out of San Fran regarding Aiyuk are just not great. It just
Negative,
seems
right?
like
Yeah.
it just seems like there's such a disconnect between Aiyuk and he's going to social media talking about, how they wanted to trade him. And Matt, I don't know what to think about the long-term outlook. Like, it would not surprise me if Aiyuk is just not on this team in 2026. And I don't like Aiyuk really anywhere else outside of a Kyle Shanahan offense.
That's what I was going to ask. Does it break your heart if he's somewhere else? If you're an Aiyuk owner? I mean, obviously there's 31 other options. Depends where he lands and all those things. But I don't think he's commanding a first-round pick at this point either.
No, but I generally don't like when wide receivers move teams because it's just not very often that these guys, especially like the non-elite receivers, move teams and get better somewhere else. So I think if you have Brandon Aiyuk in your dynasty league, you're hoping that he and the 49ers figure things out.
It's funny you use the word elite, and that's not a word that gets thrown around. It gets thrown around too much. I'm not making fun of you. I know that. But he truly was elite before the injury too. And that's why I'm still so tempted, because it wasn't that long ago where I really thought he hit his stride and became a top 7 or 8 player at his position, at a position that's just loaded with guys. So I'm buying the dip.
But for me, I'd have to, I guess, push back on that. If we're talking elite and how that word is thrown out a little bit too often, he's never averaged 16 points per game in his career. So that's not elite. Jamar Chase is elite. Justin Jefferson's elite. CeeDee Lamb's elite. If we're talking about pure fantasy football, and Aiyuk obviously looked very good before that injury, certainly in the season before in 2023, but he's never posted elite numbers in his career in the NFL.
It's a great point. I was basing it more off of tape, to be honest with you. Route running, sharpness and crispness and explosiveness, and much more developed than he was coming out of college. But your point, I mean, we are trying to score fantasy points here. You're 100% right.
Yeah, it's just, this is an offense that is just going to change so much compared to what we saw in 2023 when they were in the Super Bowl, right? Because Devo's gone, McCaffrey's a shell of himself, George Kittle's getting older, Trent Williams is getting older.
McCaffrey's a shell of himself?
You think? I mean, compared to 2023?
I'm taking him the first round and redraft in a heartbeat.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So okay, maybe this is the pivot, right? If you don't necessarily believe in the receivers, maybe the pivot is just, hey, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey, and they're going to give him all the work that he can handle.
Oh, I think so. This is a big Peacock thing. Is he said before Devo left that he thinks their long-term plan for McCaffrey is to turn him into the wide back, so to speak. Kind of make him a Devo maybe a year from now in his later years. At this stage, I think they're going to feed him like a crazy person. I think he's due he might be running back 1 when it's all said and done this year.
So again, Matt and I are going to have a little fun on the podcast today. What makes you think that? I mean, he hasn't played more than 7 games in 3 of the last 5 years. He's 29 years old. In the 4 games he played last year, he averaged 12 points per game. And I mean, I don't want anything to do with Christian McCaffrey in the first round. There's too much risk. If you don't get Isaac Guerendo, you're going to be stressing every single week about whether or not McCaffrey gets hurt or not. This is a guy who, when he's right, is Marshall Faulk, LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes. He is amazing. He's rarely right, and now he's 29 years old. I do not want Christian McCaffrey in the first round.
Best running back in PPR history. And I don't think he's
awesome.
far removed.
Awesome.
I get the 29 stuff. Again, I'm buying the dip. I'm trusting Shanahan. Isaac Guerendo. I mean, I know you're not saying they're the same player.
I'm talking about if
nobody's going to interfere with
hurt, you're screwed. Like last year, unless you got Jordan Mason before his dip, you were screwed. And I don't want to invest a first round pick. I remember at the end of Marshall Faulk's career, and I always use this as an example. And I love Marshall. He's a friend of mine. But in one of his last years with the Rams before they drafted Steven Jackson, I was like, I can't pass on him. It's Marshall Faulk. And then he got hurt and it killed me. And so from then on, I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. If Christian McCaffrey's on the board at the end of the second round, I still might not take him. I honestly, it's like Lucy holding the football for Charlie Browning and pulling it up when he's ready to kick it with McCaffrey. I might be wrong, And people out there who draft McCaffrey may be loving life and he might play 17 games and have 2,000 scrimmage yards and 20 touchdowns. I don't think so.
I lean the other way. Would they have traded Mason if they were super concerned? I think all their chips are in. They're getting old. Purdy's now on the big contract. I think they feed him an insane amount. And all running backs get hurt. I mean, I know that his level is higher than
I mean, not all.
Clearly, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
but this guy, 3
can't draft in your fears.
5 with 7 games or fewer. Like, I mean, that's Fred Taylor at the beginning of his career. That's wicked injury prone.
This is tremendous content. That's all I have to say. I love it when you guys disagree.
I love Christian McCaffrey. He's a great looking guy. He's built like Captain America. He's got a beautiful wife. I'd love to have his bank account. I'm just really afraid to draft him in fantasy. Call me a chicken.
I get it. Marcus, what receiver are you after, though? I didn't get that in. Jennings still. Okay. Yeah. That's too safe for me. I mean, I'm rolling the dice on these guys on this offense.
Yeah, he's wide receiver 47, but I think he's the one I just trust the most to be on the field. And we saw him. There was a stretch where he was leading the NFL in receiving yards after like 6 or 7 games.
He had one game where he scored like almost 50.
Yeah,
I think with this offense, and it's based mostly on the head coach, I'm clearly way less risk averse than you guys are in this one.
Probably. Yeah. And that's fine.
I'm really rolling the dice on the Niners this year.
Yeah.
And I might get burned bad.
That's right. This is an offense that can help you win championships.
Right,
so I'm not opposed to that strategy at all. All right, let's get to some more mailbag questions, including which non-rookie running back is going to break out in 2025. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Rugiet. You probably have heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head over to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Matt, our next question comes from Mark. He wants to know which non-rookie running back is going to move up a tier or 2 this season.
I took this probably the wrong way and went way down the list. You know, guys that are like borderline rosterable that I'm picking up on the cheap now that I think their stock will be noticeably higher if we do this show 1 year from now.
Okay.
And the 3 names I came up with were Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Wright, and especially Roschon Johnson.
Okay.
All kind of for the same reasons. You know, they're just hitting their strides in this league. The people ahead of them are formidable, but maybe not there for the long term. Johnson in particular really screams David Montgomery to me a little bit, you know, that version at least, which these guys are dirt cheap.
Matt or Fabs, who do you have?
I got to be honest with you. When we're talking about non-rookies, and I've actually brought this up on social media, there isn't really anyone that I see breaking out without someone getting hurt. There isn't.
Right.
I mean, Jalen Warren, okay, well, Caleb Johnson's there. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones Sr. is there. If and when McCaffrey gets hurt, then Isaac Guerrero could break out. If Kenneth Walker gets hurt again, then Zach Charbonnet could break out. But I don't see a veteran without an injury to the starter ahead of him on the depth chart breaking out this year. Like, it's all the rookies. It's Genty, it's Hampton. I mean, hell, I can't even put RJ Harvey in there anymore now that the Broncos have J.K. Dobbins. I don't see one. And a part of that is because the running back position is, you know, we've already got like our established type of guys. and it's gotten a little bit younger and there's more backfield committees, especially after the draft. Like, Trevion Henderson, well, he's got to contend with Ramondre Stevenson. Harvey's got to contend with J.K. Dobbins in Denver. We saw a lot of running backs go to teams where you're like, damn, like, I don't want him there, whether it's short-term or long-term, because there's already an incumbent starter there. So, again, I mean, if you put a gun in my head, I'd probably Jalen Warren or Jordan Mason. But again, they have hurdles on their respective teams. So I just don't see a veteran running back breaking out unless somebody gets hurt. So like a Garendo or a Charbonnet, I just don't see it.
You brought up Charbonnet, and I actually was considering Kenneth Walker, but injuries are such a thing with him as well. Could he go up a tier? I think that's possible because I think he's a great football player in a great system. Injuries are the problem. And then Tajay Spears was another name I thought about. Maybe Tajay Spears could take a jump.
But again, I mean, I don't think he takes a jump unless Powell gets hurt, right? I mean,
right.
The thing. And Walker, and we know this, Walker was averaging like 22 points a game last year. He was freaking awesome, before he ended up getting hurt the first time.
So, Matt, you mentioned one of the running backs that was on my list, Roschon Johnson, who I liked quite a bit coming out of Texas. We saw him last year. He scored 6 touchdowns. Now, I know the rushing yardage and the yards per carry weren't great, but he was the one getting the goal line looks. And if you're projecting this Bears offense to be really good, and clearly dynasty managers are, look at the ADPs of Caleb Williams and all the receivers, then somebody's going to get a bunch of these rushing touchdowns. And Ben Johnson is like one of the most run-heavy offensive coordinators or offensive play callers when he's inside the 5-yard line. It's not going to be DeAndre Swift. Like, that's not what DeAndre Swift is good at. Could Roschon Johnson be our Jamal Williams of 2022, where he's get 17 touchdowns, or David Montgomery, who gets double-digit touchdowns every year? Why not?
Yeah, he was my favorite of my initial list because I liked him coming out of Texas. He was blocked by Bijan. He's good in protection. Coaches love him. He does all the dirty work. He played some special teams at Texas that endears me to him as well in terms of just getting on the field. And I think he's the clear 2 in Chicago, and he's different than Swift, to your point. So, yes.
Can I give you one more of mine that I'm trying to grab in every single league right now, and that's Braylon Allen, who you can get right now at RB49 on Dynasty League Football. And here's the reasoning. I think that run game in general was awful last year, partly because of the quarterback and nobody was afraid of him running the ball, right? We have a long history of mobile quarterbacks coming in and just making the run games better and making the running backs more effective. Braylon Allen is a talented running back. He's got the most rushing yards ever before their 21st birthday. It was 20 last year. And I just wonder if he's going to be a better fit in this New York offense than Breece Hall, because he's a downhill physical runner. They drafted Armand Membu in the first round. They clearly want to run the ball. Why couldn't Braylon Allen, even with a healthy Breece Hall, just be somebody that gets 175 touches and goes from, RB49 to RB30 by the time we get to like October?
I think that's a good one. My only pushback was it wouldn't shock me if the coaching staff likes Isaiah Davis equally.
Yeah, and maybe you just grab both, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because you can get both for nothing right now. Fabs, what do you think about Braylon Allen going into the season?
To me, he's mostly a handcuff for Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall's got something to prove. And I also think that 2 years ago, Breece Hall hit his ceiling. And then we all jumped on it. Remember, at the end of the year, they were playing just bums at quarterback, and they were just dumping the ball off to Breece Hall, and a lot of his production came as a pass catcher. I remember there was one game, I think he had 16 targets in the game, and that's why he finished so highly, because of that late season run where, and I know Zach Wilson was no great shakes either, but I mean, the Jets even had worse quarterbacks going. What was it, like Trevor Siemian? So that was the reason why he was so good, and then we all bought into it, and then last year, obviously, things didn't work out so well. But I also feel like people are a little bit down on Breece after last year, and I think he bounces back. They're going to run the football this season in New York. I'm not saying he's going to be the RB2. I don't know that it'll ever be a top 8 or 10 RB again from a fantasy perspective, because they do have 2 talented guys behind him. But it's hard for me to see a scenario where we see Braylon Allen see enough touches to be, say, a standalone flex starter every single week of next season.
I just won't be surprised if he's getting enough touches to where he's more annoying than maybe a fantasy guy. But again, if
I can see that.
But could he show enough this year that the Jets decide not to pay Breece Hall in the offseason. I think that's very, very possible. And then all of a sudden, Braylon Allen is somebody who is a week 1 starter in 2026. That's why I'm willing to buy in at the RB 49 price right now.
I do love the age. You brought that up, like
21.
Right. I never loved the player though.
I always thought he was a little overrated, but when you're talking about there were a lot of people I remember like in Devy leagues 2 or 3 years ago where he was like the number 1 overall pick.
I can imagine.
That always felt rich, but I feel like this is more appropriate.
I just never thought he was super elusive.
No,
he was kind of a stiff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's okay. If he gets on the field, all matters.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some late round dart throws that we are making in our startup drafts. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever wished that managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're trying to grow your savings or you're planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO and giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you can start building your wealth. My family has been using Monarch Money for, I think, 6 or 7 months now. And it's unbelievable how much money we were wasting on just pointless stuff. But now we are managing our money better and we are actually building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. As training camps get closer and moves are being made, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. All right, Matt, final question here. This one from Jake. He wants to know, who are 1 or 2 late round picks that you are making in every single startup draft? We can include rookie drafts in here as well, but just some guy that you want to make sure is on your roster when you're leaving a draft.
Yeah, we know most of these guys are going to wash out. I mean, these are long shots. Like you said, dart throws, last round pick in a startup is the way I looked at it. So I came up with like 7 or 8 names. If one hits, you're happy. But 2 rookie quarterbacks, I still am really infatuated with Milroe. And Shuck is my other rookie quarterback. I mean, again, this is not super flex. You wouldn't get those guys at the very end. Daniel Jones, to me, is going to be very fantasy relevant, and I want to sit him on the bottom of my roster. Jordan James, back to the McCaffrey Niners conversation. I think James has a really good chance to be the true handcuff when it's all said and done. Malik Washington was a guy I like quite a bit. I don't know how long Tyreek Hill's going to be a Dolphin, plus he's probably going to be the number 3 receiver at a minimum. Super boring, but Hunter Henry can catch touchdowns. I mean, late, he doesn't cost you anything. And then 3 tight ends, Ben Sinnott, Luke Musgrave, who's obviously blocked by Kraft, who I love, and Theo Johnson. Again, these are late round. I mean, I'm digging deep.
I really like to call him like Luke Musgrave because this was somebody that was drafted, was it in round 2 for his receiving ability? Like he's a 6'6", 260-pound tight end that was supposed to be the seam stretcher for Green Bay. Just hasn't happened yet, but I like the
maybe it's on another team,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. When Engram went to the Jags,
Perfect example. Fabs, who do you got?
I also love Milroe. I've got 5 players. None of them have an ADP of higher than 203.3. So, I mean, we're going real deep. But Shazor Sanders, Joe Flacco's old. Kenny Pickett might not be on the roster. I get it. Dylan Gabriel's there, but Shazor Sanders is 229.7 right now. Like, why not take a chance on a guy who a lot of people projected to be a first rounder? Go ask Mel Kiper. He'd probably draft him in the first round of a dynasty startup, right? Torrey Horton, the rookie in Seattle. Cooper Kupp is old, and he's probably not going to be very productive. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's got a shot to potentially etch out a role in Seattle, maybe, as a rookie and further into his career. Obviously, Kyle Monangai in Chicago, DeAndre Swift is okay. We talked about Roschon Johnson, but the kid out of Rutgers, he's potentially someone that I want to have on my roster just in case. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt in Washington, his ADP is 214. My pal Austin Eckler, how many more years is he going to play in the league or in Washington? I'm not sure. Maybe this could be about it. Brian Robinson Jr., is he long for the Commanders? And then finally, Will Shipley, because Saquon Barkley has every single hex curse, and Marcus and I have talked about this going against him. And if he could potentially be the number 2 in Philadelphia and beat out AJ Dillon, then Shipley could end up having some value. I know we're going deep here, but that was the question. Dart throws, and that's what those 5 guards they're all dart throws.
I got 2 guys that are currently being drafted outside the top 175 in your super flex startup drafts. They're really late. Brashad Smith, the running back for the Chiefs. He was a former receiver at Miami, made the switch to running back at SMU. Was amazing. He was one of the big reasons why SMU made the college football playoffs. He fell to the 7th round, but man, you're talking about a running back that has got speed and that can make plays out of the backfield. I think he could do the Jerick McKinnon role and more in Kansas City. That's just somebody that I want to stash. And then, Matt, how about a guy that had 90 catches last year, who's 24 years old, who's being drafted at pick 200? Can you guess who that is?
No.
90 catches last year.
Not in the NFL.
Wait.
Okay.
Was it Wan'Dale Robinson?
Wan'Dale Robinson. Here's the argument from Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale got a lot of targets last year, but so did Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors had 170 targets in 15 games last year, and Wan'Dale still got all those targets. Now, I think with Russell Wilson, you're not going to get as many screen targets, but maybe you'll see them use Wan'Dale more down the field. Russell does have a history of having success with these smaller slot receivers, whether it's Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, Golden Tate, even Calvin Austin had a career year last year. So Wan'Dale Robinson is just a really interesting guy to stash at the bottom of your roster. Again, 24 years old. If he catches 80 passes this year, you're talking about a weekly flex play.
I like it. I own him in a lot. I didn't even think of him because I think of him as a better player than this exercise, but I didn't realize his ADP was that low. I like Michael's call of Horton a lot. I think you might be really happy you own him next year. I mean, he has some injuries and things like that. That felt like a draft pick for 2026 to me. And then a similar one I wanted to throw in that I forgot. I love this Washington offense. Jalen Lane, I think, is a good prospect too out of Virginia Tech.
I love it. All right. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Matt on Twitter at Williamson NFL. You can follow Fabs at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.